The Reboot Reset program is a 4-week program designed to optimize your health. Okay. Reboot, which is the elimination stage, removing foods that are known to cause digestive issues. Dairy, gluten, sugar, and starchy vegetables. You're pretty low carb, but we add in lots of really beautiful healthy fats. So you shouldn't feel hungry, but your body learns how to manage carbohydrates more effectively. And then the reset, which is the reintroduction phase. A lot of my clients, they have digestive issues, but they don't know why. And so if we gradually reintroduce foods, then it's a way to identify what might be causing issues. And in 4 weeks, you can really change how your body responds to food and how you feel about food. Everyone says to me, I am so energized, I'm sleeping better, I feel better. The objective is to just reset yourself, get you fired up, ready to go. I like to do it at the beginning of a longer transformation plan, because once we've got that kickstart, we feel we can do anything.
My superhero guest today is a former lawyer turned functional medicine health coach, a 2-time recipient of the Women of Wellness Award, and founder of BeFit The Right Way, a popular health and wellness program in Hong Kong and in Asia. She's a leading expert empowering people worldwide with deep body knowledge for transformative health and lives. I am super impressed by her extensive experience of over 20 years in fitness and nutrition. What sets her apart is her unwavering passion for integrating functional medicine into her approach for transformation and her reset programs. As a board-certified coach myself, I can confidently state that these programs are absolute game changers. Today in this podcast, we're going to dive deep into strategies that she has used to help thousands of people transform their body and stay happy and motivated. We'll also be discussing the importance of reset and reboot strategies and cover some big areas of menopause, which is a less talked about topic in Asia. Menopause isn't just for women. As a male, it is important to know about it so that you can support the women in your life during this tough phase. Stay tuned to find out more on how you can help. Without further ado, let's welcome our superhero guest for today, Beth Wright. Beth, welcome on board.
Great, thank you for having me.
Let's start somewhere. We're taking you back to memory lane. What is it that made you make this switch from being a lawyer to this super renowned transformation coach? What's the Beth story?
The Beth story. I would say the story started a long time ago when I was at university. So I was already studying law, and my parents effectively told me that if I wanted pocket money to socialize, I had to get a part-time job. So I got a job at the gym. I trained as a personal trainer. Within a very short period of time, I realized I was in love with exercise and fitness and feeling good, probably more than my degree. And I carried that forward. So, once I started working as a lawyer, I continued to train myself and other people. And that's pretty much been my journey until I moved to Hong Kong 15 years ago.
Wow.
Always managing both. Mm-hmm. And then I think I got to a point where a lot of people do in Hong Kong, where I was doing too much and not recovering enough.
Right.
So I was working hard, playing hard, doing 15-hour days, still trying to go to LKF at the weekends, train at 6 a.m. in the morning. And at some point, my body said enough is enough. I think I had to take time to prioritize my own health, put myself first, find ways to support my lifestyle and to become healthy again. And that journey has taken me to where I am today, to help other people.
It seems to be a lifestyle that many of us are living, and I'm just going to hone in on that because that is so important. We in Hong Kong, the crazy, busy Asian lifestyle that I call, seem to be doing too many things. And myself, I'm at fault, not giving enough time to ourselves to recover, and we find ourselves in corner. Have you found yourself in corner?
Oh, absolutely. And for me, that was the point at which I needed to transition and to make a change. And they often say that you have to reach rock bottom before you're willing to make a real 180 turn. And for me, that rock bottom was when I was working crazy hours. I wasn't sleeping, I wasn't healthy, I gained 20 pounds.
Right.
And I couldn't see a way out. And that's when I just decided to prioritize my health. And I think that journey is the one that I have experienced myself and has allowed me to empathize with my clients and allows me to see what they need in order to get back to their full, vital, healthy selves.
For the last 15 years plus, you have been working with so many clients in Asia and around the world, which rightly makes you one of the most sorted out for body transformation coaches. What is it that, at least lately, has been two of the main reasons why clients pick up that call, give a dial on to Beth's hotline and say, I need help. What are some of the key issues out there?
I think the first one won't surprise anyone listening to this. The first one is fat loss. And I think that's something that we all think we need to do, rightly or wrongly. I often would like to reframe that and think more about gaining muscle than losing body fat, because I think that's more of a long-term beneficial outcome.
Right.
But number one, people would pick up the phone and say, Beth, I need to lose 10 kgs or 10 pounds. Secondly, I think the other one that I see more and more here in Hong Kong is just regaining a sense of vitality, regaining energy and a sense of self-worth, all of which kind of work together.
Right. So it's basically vitality, a vast variety of emotions.
Absolutely. And I think that's the beauty or the benefit of working with a transformation coach, or actually any coach, is that feeling that they've got your back, that they understand what you're going through or what they are going through, and the accountability. That's the best part about having a coach that supports your end goals.
Now, I'm just going to start off with body transformation. I've been through multiple stages of body transformation. First, it started off with being a 240-pound obese kid to being a lean kid. Then the dream soared higher. I wanted to bring on the Arnold physique, and I got there. Did it end there? Absolutely not. Then it was to go for the beach body look. At the end of all these journeys was an unhappy me that felt kind of disgusted with myself and not happy from within, at least. People seem to adopt the wrong way of transforming themselves to achieve a certain goal that is absolutely not sustainable. What impresses me and what amazes me is your holistic approach to body transformation, which, having read through your website, has landed you with some amazing testimonials where they are still happy or have tools with which, even if a slip happens, they can bring back that sustainable transformation by themselves.
Yeah.
So my question to you, Beth, is what is Beth's approach to the sustainable transformation?
Well, first and foremost, I think I should share that how I got to where I am today was through making all of those mistakes myself. So I don't come to this table to talk about transformation without having tried everything myself and made many, many mistakes. And I can identify with a lot of what you've just shared about being, the larger kid at school and then wanting to be smaller and then trying to attain an unattainable size. I've been there and done that. And I think that's a big part of my journey too. My approach with my clients, I think, is twofold in particular. Number one, if someone comes to me for fat loss or even just to feel good about themselves, I want to start from a place of health. So almost every single one of my programs will start with what I call the reboot, where I want to dial into their digestion, their nutrition, their sleep, their stress management, because the last thing I ever want to do is put someone in a calorie deficit for fat loss purposes if they're not already feeling pretty healthy already. So that would be the first and foremost. And I think a lot of coaches will say, okay, you want to lose weight, let's put you in a calorie deficit, let's up your exercise and go for gold. But that just puts you even more in the back seat. So I think it's healthy first, and then you can approach it from a much more balanced foundation. The second thing, which is really important to me, is education.
Right.
And I spend a lot of time educating my clients why we're doing something in a certain way, why it's important, because I want them to have the tools to be able to sustain this without me going forwards. And I always say I don't want repeat customers. I want to help you, give you the tools, and you go on and I help somebody else.
And I love what you said, the power of the why. Because many times we live our lives where, we're just told to do this. Yeah. No one tells us the why. Hence, we come out with an action that is absolutely not sustainable. And that leaves us with nothing into our long-term memory.
I find it really interesting that you mentioned the why, because that will be one of the first questions that I will dial into with anyone that I work with. I want to know their why.
Yeah.
Because once I know their why, then I work with that to get them to where they want to be. But unless they know their why and unless I know it, then I can't be the coach for them to get them to the end results. It's like a symbiotic relationship. And I think those two things are really important.
And also from everything that I've read, you seem to be a person who starts the transformation from really going back into the past.
Yeah, 100%.
Why is it so important for people to actually dial into their past?
When someone starts working with me, they fill in a really lengthy questionnaire, and I want to know about their dieting history, their health history, their medical history, their life, basically, their likes, their dislikes, their lifestyle, because most people will work with me in a transformation program from 3 months up. And so throughout that 3 months, we're on this journey together. I can help them above and beyond what anyone else can do if I know what might derail them, what might motivate them, what's happened in the past that didn't work, what has happened that did work. All of that information allows me to really tailor and focus the program to them and to ensure that they get the results. And, hand on my heart, I've pretty much been able to succeed with almost everyone that I've worked with that has wanted to get those results.
Now, I'm just going to dive into something that is very controversial here. I'm going to talk about nutrition.
Great. Go.
Okay. Every instructor, every coach seems to be their own God in their own way of getting things done. And I think that is such a wrong take on nutrition today.
Yeah.
As a result of which we're finding ourselves in unknown, uncharted territories when the objective is pretty much the same for many people to maybe lose 10 pounds or 10 kgs over a span of time. What is your approach when it comes to nutrition?
Firstly, I don't think everyone is looking to lose weight. I think there are a large number of people that just want to feel energized. And I think what we know is that nutrition is the cornerstone of optimal health. And it's one of the things that really help us feel good, feel energized, feel motivated, for so many different reasons. And in terms of nutrition, the best diet is the one that works for you. It's the one that you can stick to. It's the one that's sustainable. And it's the one that gives you the nutrients you need to feel energized, full of zest and vigor. So if someone comes to me and says, Beth, I want to just do a ketogenic diet, I'm not going to say, no, you can't do it. You have to do it my way. I might share education around some of the nutrients they might be missing, how they might do better with including more fiber in their diet. But if that's what works for them, who am I to tell them no? So a big part of what I do is to listen to what people want, what they need, what they operate well on, what they enjoy, and to provide them with the education to make the right choices for themselves, with sometimes a healthy kick up the backside along the way too.
Oh, absolutely. And many of us could do with that. And maybe call that as motivation.
Yes, or accountability.
You talked about this. Now I'm just going to honor that again. Yeah. Keto diet. What is your take on this?
Having worked with well over 1,000 men and women, my experience has been that my male clients actually do really well on keto. They lose weight, and they tend to lose weight quite fast. Their blood work isn't always optimal 3 to 6 months having been on the program. So you start to see elevations of cholesterol. Just for one example, women, I find as they get older in particular, really struggle on keto. They don't feel satisfied, they don't feel full, and they don't like the lack of variety. And I think in particular, women do really well with a whole host of nutrients from fruit and vegetables as well. So I find women need to have more on their plate than just some meat.
Being on ketogenic diet for an extensive period of time, yes, it does pay dividends in the beginning.
Yeah.
But it is a therapeutic diet.
For sure. It was intended for a specific therapeutic end result, which was actually epilepsy.
So when you're using such high level of diet, you better be well working with somebody you know, rather than listening or going off the voices that you hear on social media. And best done under supervision of some great people working alongside.
I agree. And back to what we said earlier, like if it's the right diet for you, if it's what you want to follow because you enjoy it and it makes you feel good, then there's no reason why I'd ever tell someone not to do it. But I'm also a big believer in test, don't guess. So no matter what process or protocol you're on, every 3 to 6 months, get your blood work done. See how your body's responding. It's not just a number on the scale. What does your blood tell you as well?
And maybe also listening to what your body's telling you and also what symptoms it is manifesting when you're being on the diet and being open to it. Yeah. And maybe using it as a tool rather than a lifestyle or a diet style, if I can state.
And I think that's a really important point. Like sometimes a certain protocol might work for a short period of time, and that's all it was intended to do. So often I will do an elimination phase with a lot of my clients, mainly because they have digestive issues, but they don't know why. And so if we do an elimination phase and gradually reintroduce foods, then it's a really good way to identify what might be causing issues. That's only intended to do for 2 to 4 weeks maximum. So yeah, I think everything can serve a purpose. And to your point, I think you should work with a practitioner that you trust, that you believe in, and has your back.
Yeah, and I think if I were to just summarize the nutrition from a Beth's perspective, it's everybody is different. Yeah. And appreciating the fact that you are different and some things might work for you, some things might not. Maybe looking at the whole diet spectrum or endorsing a diet style that is sustainable. And at the same time, go and chase your goals by using smaller protocols like a keto diet or a paleo diet. Hey, a vegan diet. But at the same time, whenever you're doing this, respecting what your body's trying to tell you and also monitoring those energy states and getting some blood work done.
Yeah, I agree. And I guess the only thing I would add to that is these kind of conceptual diets, whether it be keto or carnivore or whatever it might be, I wouldn't say they're a replacement for eating a whole balanced diet full of fruits and vegetables and whole grains and unprocessed foods. That's the simplest diet to follow for all of us.
Supplementation, another area where everybody seems to have their own way. And we live today in a world where there is just so many choices. What are some of the recommendations that you would make?
So when it comes to supplementation, I'm a big believer, test, don't guess. And it's really easy to go onto iHerb in particular and think, what did my favorite influencer have on her story this week? But I think the first thing to do is assess if you actually need something. And supplementation is just an addition to everything else that we do on top of our lifestyle. And it's like the top of the pyramid, if you like. So for me, I would always test, see what my clients are deficient in before I would even recommend or make any suggestions for supplements. If you said to me, Beth, pick your top 3 or the ones that you think are really, really helpful, always vitamin D. I've seen hundreds of blood work, and that one almost everyone seems to be deficient in, unless they are supplementing here in Hong Kong. And that is specifically because we absorb it through our skin, we synthesize it through sunlight hitting our skin and through our retinas. So we just don't get enough sunlight because we're always inside, or we wear sunglasses or sunscreen. The second one would be omega-3s, so fish oils that can reduce inflammation. And for me, my third favorite is probably magnesium, because it's one of the best for optimizing, de-stressing, helping sleep. Those would be my top 3.
So just summarizing, a good magnesium?
Yeah.
Omegas?
Yeah. Omega-3 specifically, because we tend to get lots of omega-6 from our diet in any event. So omega-3 we tend to be lacking in, and that is optimal for reducing inflammation.
And vitamin D?
And vitamin D.
That a good source of vitamin D,
a good source, yeah.
What do you think about having a multivitamin in that cabinet?
I think it can serve a purpose, but if you think about the size of that vitamin, there's only so much of each vitamin that can go into that 1 capsule or 2 capsules. So if you really need to top up a specific nutrient, whether it be a vitamin or a mineral, then you probably are better off going with a single supplement.
What's this whole thing about people moving to a plant-based diet? What is your take on it?
I guess this goes back to what we were talking about earlier about having a very specific diet type which excludes other foods. I think the moment you exclude any foods, you are potentially removing an opportunity for those specific nutrients or the contributions that they add to your diet. So plant-based foods are, they're incredible. They're full of all these vitamins and minerals that we need, but we also know that the body needs protein and dietary fats, and sometimes those are best received from animal-based products. And if that's not your choice, that's not your preference, then I fully support that. But it does make it harder to get those nutrients.
Because especially for people who are making that switch, they do not realize how much they're going to miss out on. And education, as you rightly mentioned, is the biggest empowerment tool. And then to ask themselves that question, if I'm going to embark on this journey, I'm going to be missing out on this. How am I going to bridge this? Do I have a plan? And 9 out of 10 times, nobody has an idea on a strategy until it's too late.
It's much harder to optimize your protein intake. To get enough is much harder as a vegetarian or as a vegan. So I think that's something that people need to bear in mind. And definitely working with somebody that understands how to structure your diet can be really helpful. I encourage my plant-based clients to really eat as wide a variety of foods as they possibly can. Whole grains, legumes are really good rich sources of protein as well. Most of the vegetarians or vegans that I work with end up supplementing in one way, shape or form, particularly if they are really striving to achieve an upper end on the protein limit. So if they are strength trainers, for example, if they're older women who need a larger intake of protein, then we often have to end up using either protein shakes or EAAs, because the alternative is if you try and get it all from your plant-based diet, you end up being very high in carbohydrates, which women in particular don't do so well with as they get older.
So moving on from supplementation, let's talk about exercise and movement. Such a pivotal part when it comes to body transformations. What is your take on exercise and movement?
I think that first and foremost, you have to find something that you enjoy. Not everyone knows what they enjoy. So sometimes it's about being creative and being open to trying new things. Having said that, I think it's absolutely essential, particularly for my female clients, to make sure that they are strength training, i.e. using their muscles. And that's something that more and more in the sort of the last 10 years, we've become aware that it's absolutely essential for long-term longevity and health. Women in particular lose muscle mass and bone density every year from the age of 30. So to offset that, you need to be moving in the gym and you need to be lifting weights. And the older we get, the heavier weights we need to be lifting. There's a lot of talk now about how muscle is the key to longevity.
Right.
And we are not over fat, but we are under muscled. And in many ways, I agree with that, because your health risks increase as you get older if you lose bone density in it and if you lose muscle mass. So I really work very closely with my clients to educate them on the importance of not just maintaining your muscle mass, but building it as we get older. It not only makes you look good, it makes you feel good, improves your posture. It prevents the chance of you falling and having an injury.
Right.
And all of these things are actually completely essential for optimal health. I work in a female gym, and the number of women that come in there day in, day out who are motivated to lift weight astounds me. But that's unusual. And that's because we've created a community where women can come in and feel confident. But I think a lot of women don't feel confident going into the gym on their own.
There's compelling science coming out these days that having more muscles can even manage your insulin resistance or sensitivity and make it better.
Absolutely.
Instead of fat going and getting stored around organs.
Yeah.
But instead, the sugars broken down can actually rest in your muscles, and it can be used much better in a much efficient way if you have muscles on.
Absolutely. I mean, we store the majority of our carbohydrates in our muscles and in our liver. So the more muscle you have, the more carbohydrates you can store. And the more muscles you have, the more effectively you can utilize carbohydrates. So anyone that enjoys carbs, get more muscle.
And then there is never an excuse that I'm getting older, I'm also getting bigger in the wrong areas. Because maybe the one biggest reason why you are is because you've been maybe going to the gym and just continuously putting yourself through high intensity interval training and not lifting weights to build some muscles.
Yeah. Muscles are the key uptaker of carbohydrates. So the more muscle you have, the more carbohydrates you can take up, and the more energy you will have to fuel your workout.
We talked about exercise. We talked about muscles. What is your take on rest?
I think it's essential. I think it's the missing component that so many of us forget about. It's really easy to get on a fitness motivation trail and train every single day and forget about the importance of rest. And I always say that the gains are made outside of the gym. You go into the gym fueled and ready to perform, and then the body recovers, rebuilds and regenerates whilst you're sleeping, whilst you're recovering. So for me, I have 2 full rest days a week, and I really prioritize my nutrition before and after my workouts and sleep.
What's the nutrition before and after your workout, if I can ask?
Before my workout, I will typically have a small amount of carbs and some protein.
Right.
Just because at the end of the day, I want to be in there and being able to perform. And I think one of the big mistakes I see a lot of my female clients doing in particular is going underfueled into workouts. So there's a big craze to do intermittent fasting, for example. So they'll get up in the morning and they'll go and do a 45-minute HIIT training class or a strength-based training class, but without any fuel. So if you don't have fuel, you can't perform. And the objective is to perform as best you can in the class, and then you recover afterwards. So yeah, I tend to have a snack before, and then I will refuel within 30 to 45 minutes after my workout.
So what would be some of the good pre-workouts that you use as fuel going in?
Yeah, well, I like a little bit of carbohydrates.
Right.
So often it could be something as simple as a piece of toast with some peanut butter on.
Simple.
Really simple. Something that is quick energy releasing. And then afterwards I try and have some protein within sort of 30 to 45 minutes. And if I'm in a rush straight from the gym, I'll grab a protein shake. If I've got time or I've actually prepared something, then I'll have something a bit more substantial.
And also something that you mentioned is the outdoor element. Do you think being outdoor is important?
I think it's really important for many different ways. One of my big beliefs is that getting up in the morning first thing and getting outside and getting sunlight in your eyes is
amazing,
fundamental for your sort of how you feel throughout the day, for your energy and for your sleep. So there's lots of evidence and research that shows getting sunlight in your eyes first thing in the morning resets your circadian rhythm. So that's really important for optimizing your sleep and energy throughout the day.
But, when people say like, hey, I'm just not burning enough fat, my metabolism has gone for a toss. It could be that circadian reset that's not happening.
There's a few top tips that I would give to people if they feel like they've got stubborn fat loss or things aren't moving. Get up, get outside and get moving and have that same rhythm every day. So the quicker your body sort of starts the day, it sets you up for success for the rest of the day. I think the other tip would be eating a protein-based breakfast.
Okay.
I think that's really important as well. If you like to be someone that fasts, so that's fine, but still break your fast with some protein if you can. And then the third thing would be to incorporate some movement other than just your daily step count into your daily routine.
protein-rich breakfast and the sun.
And the sun.
What an amazing morning routine. I love it, Beth. Now, another area that really fascinates me is how you bring in mindfulness into your transformative approach. Tell me a bit more about the importance of being mindful during this whole journey of transformation.
Yeah, I mean, we touched earlier on the importance of understanding someone's why, and me understanding their history, whether it be their dieting history, health history, medical history. And I think all of those combined allow someone to dial into why they're actually going through any kind of transformation. I mean, I'm essentially there as a coach to guide them through.
Right.
I guide them, I support them, I provide them with the accountability, but the inner drive and desire has to come from you as a person. And I think once you know what that is, it makes it much easier to be mindful throughout that process. And if I feel like people are sort of losing their why, that's when I kind of bring it back to, why did we start this journey? What is it that you want? I mean, sometimes goals change, and that's absolutely fine. But yeah, you need to be mindful about why you're doing things and what you're doing. In addition to, I guess, the other layer of mindfulness, which is ensuring you give yourself a little bit of respite each day.
Right.
Quiet time.
What is your definition of quiet time?
I don't get a lot of quiet time.
Okay. Yeah.
Actually,
well, that's every superhero has their own areas of improvement.
This is true. I try and incorporate quiet time in the morning. So when I get up, the first thing that I do in the morning is I try not to look at my phone, which is really tempting because it's also my alarm clock.
Right.
But I try and just lie there. In the morning, your thoughts are at their most powerful and your mind is most easily influenced. So my first 5 minutes of the day is quiet, thinking about what I want to achieve for that day and how I'm going to do it. And then I try and do something similar before I go to bed.
Now, an area that you touched upon as the fundamental to optimizing well-being and bringing about a transformation from the state that you're in, the reboot and the reset.
Yeah.
Tell me something about that program of yours.
As I mentioned at the beginning, I like to make sure that all of my clients are healthy before we start any kind of real transformation program. And the Reboot Reset program is a 4-week program designed to optimize your health. What we do is we do an elimination phase, we do a reintroduction phase, and the goal is to reduce inflammation, improve digestion, improve sleep, resensitize the taste buds. And in 4 weeks, you can really change how your body responds to food and how you feel about food. So it really came about as a kickstart for all intents and purposes. And I use that typically with most of my transformation clients.
And you said there are stages to it?
2 stages. So
okay.
Reboot, which is the elimination stage, and then the reset, which is the reintroduction phase.
So let's talk about the reboot or the elimination phase. What are we eliminating here?
We are effectively removing foods which are known to be known allergens for most people,
okay,
or are known to cause digestive issues. So for a lot of people, that particularly here in Asia is dairy, also gluten. Nightshades for some people can cause issues. Mm-hmm. We also remove sugar, or like very quickly release sugar, so fruits come out, and starchy vegetables. And the reason for that is to also help people become a little bit more insulin sensitive, because throughout that 2-week phase, you're pretty low carb. But what we do is we add in lots of really beautiful healthy fats and balanced fats. So you shouldn't feel hungry, you shouldn't feel like you don't feel good, but your body learns how to manage carbohydrates more effectively.
It's not basically eliminating or something I got to be scared of. You're just removing some trigger foods.
Correct. I've been doing this reboot myself for years, and I've been running it as a program for nearly 5 years.
Wow.
Without question, everyone says to me, I am so energized, I'm sleeping better, I feel better, my clothes feel better. And the objective is not necessarily to lose fat. I think many people do. The objective is to just reset yourself, get you ready, fired up, ready to go. Because suddenly you are not eating foods which are processed or that slow you down, or your body has to take time to digest. Yeah, it's a great kickstart.
I love the word kickstart, because many a times we want to embark on this journey, but one of the things that we're lacking is drive or motivation. Yeah. And there is compelling science to it, where feel-good factor, hormones, the brain chemicals, dopamine, serotonin, 80% of this comes from your gut.
Yeah.
You're just restricting the triggers for a period of time so that you're starting on this journey and you might even see the end of it and be there for a longer period of time.
Right. And that's one of the reasons why I like to do it at the beginning of a longer transformation plan, because we all know that once we're motivated, once we've got that kickstart, like we feel we can do anything. That's really, really motivating.
Now, going into another area that you're really passionate about, menopause. Now, to be honest, when people asked me to do this podcast, and that was one of the topics that I'd cover, and I went like, man, that is going to be tough. But my wife told me, like, that is the problem, because nobody wants to face it. Especially in Asia, nobody wants to talk about it. And men don't want to do anything to do with it. But every man has that woman in their life. It could be their mom, it could be their wives, that they could provide support for such a critical part of a woman's life. Tell me about menopause a bit.
Gosh, well, firstly, I wish every man thought like that.
I'm on a journey.
I love that. So, firstly, menopause affects 100% of women, and women are 50% of the population. So just those numbers, those stats, should tell us that we should all know about it. But we don't. And I think what we're seeing, particularly in Asia, is we are far behind on that knowledge. In UK, in the US, everyone left, right and centre is talking about HRT and menopause. Here I still have men coming to me and saying, what exactly is it? And I think a lot of women don't talk about it here in Asia. There's a cultural almost taboo about wanting to talk about it because it's effectively the point at which you are no longer able to have children. So your periods will at some point stop. And that's the official point at which you go through menopause, when you have not had a period for 12 months. But in actual fact, the more important phase that I work with women in is perimenopause. And that can be 10 to 15 years leading up to that final point in time.
Wow.
And so during that 10 to 15 years, women are experiencing symptoms. They might be experiencing fat gain in areas, like the belly, that they just don't know how to shift. Mm-hmm. They don't respond to things in the way that they used to. And, the most common phrase I hear is, I used to be able to. I used to be able to lose 2 pounds in a week by cutting out bread. And the thing is, the body doesn't respond in perimenopause or menopause in the way it used to when we were in our 30s. And so I think it's really, really fundamental that anyone who coaches a woman in particular, or anyone that has a woman in their life, understands that things need to change.
And will change.
And will change. And for any coaches, for example, listening to this podcast, I really want them to understand what their female clients are going through, how they need to change their training, for example, because the type of training that worked in our 30s doesn't necessarily work for women whose hormones are fluctuating.
Right.
To understand, if you're giving nutrition advice, how that nutrition guidelines need to change from women, from this age to this age.
Right.
Yeah.
Things have to be looked at a different perspective. The way you eat, the way you maybe even sleep and rest.
The way you move. Like, the body is operating differently, not badly, but just differently. For example, your hormones are fluctuating. So one of the key female hormones is estrogen. And we have estrogen receptors almost everywhere in our body, from our bones to our guts to our brain. And so if you can understand that, then when estrogen starts to drop, that's why women get foggy-headed, why they get joint aches, why they have lack of energy, why we are more predisposed to cardiovascular disease. Mm-hmm. So all of these things we have to prepare for, we have to understand. The earlier you get on track with your lifestyle, the better that transition should be. So if you're eating well, if you're balancing your blood sugar, if you're training, if you're maintaining muscle mass, if you're sleeping well, if you're managing stress, then for sure that transition is going to be better.
And during the transition phase, is there any alternate therapies that you recommend or you seem to work to make it a little bit more of an easier transition?
I focus almost 100% on the lifestyle strategies. So I work with how we need to eat differently, how we need to train differently. For example, women need more protein to get the same muscle protein synthesis in our 40s than we did in our 30s. So it's small things like that that make a big difference. So I work with my clients on nutrition, how they need to train, the importance of sleep and stress management, because you're already inflamed as a result of fluctuating hormones. That would be the area that I work with. And then they would work with their medical practitioner for hormonal replacement therapies, for example. And that's something that, as a coach, I wouldn't advise on, but would support them through.
And also you run a specific program if somebody is keen to know about this and want to get empowered and prepare themselves for that journey ahead.
Yeah, I do. And I work with a medical doctor here in Hong Kong, Dr. Lorena Law. Her and I have been running this menopause program for a few years now with the primary focus of education. And she educates with her doctor's hat on about what's happening to your body and the medical options that are available. And I support through the lifestyle strategies. And together, they're kind of an unbeatable approach.
And I love this synergy of they have an amazing coach working with a medical professional, because a consultation with a medical professional is maybe 20 minutes in Hong Kong.
Yeah.
And once they're out, they have somebody like you, an accountable buddy who knows what they're doing, backs it up with science, and always in hunt for protocols and hacks that actually work. Yeah. And with an open mindset, it might work, it might not.
Yeah.
But it's not something that I'm going to live with. At the same time, I'm going to respect my body and appreciate what works and then build from there.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Beth. It was a pleasure having you on board. And now I'm going to put you on the spot with some rapid fire questions. Are you ready?
I'm ready. Let's go.
Morning person or night person?
Morning.
Wine or chocolate?
Chocolate.
Love it. Presenting to an audience or personal training?
Presenting.
Most embarrassing moment lately?
Falling over in front of many people.
Okay, was I presenting? Okay.
In the street.
Climbing hills or girls' night out?
Climbing hills.
Okay, thank you so much. Beth, it was a pleasure.
Oh, gosh. Thank you.